Tales from Fright Town, Part 5, written by Breinholdt. I've experienced a lot of things while working at my town's kiosk. I've seen a man get ripped open by thin air. I've seen reverse thunder, a weird plant, spiders with human fingers instead of legs. But this takes the cake. Something weird happened yesterday. It's kind of hard to explain, but I can say this. I think I met a god yesterday. It started off as most days did. I had a shift at the kiosk with Martin, and yet again, he didn't show up. So I sat alone behind the kiosk until I noticed that there was a guy standing behind the fridge yet again. So I got up from my chair, but instead of checking to see if there was someone there, I walked into the storage room to get Earl. I looked around and I couldn't see him, so I went and checked the bathroom. He wasn't there either, and I noticed that you could see blood on the floor, and I decided I would wash it when I had the chance. After seeing that the bathrooms were empty, I was just about to give up, but then I noticed that the door to the backyard was slightly open, so I walked over and opened it. At first, I couldn't see anything out of place in the backyard. There were the usual piles of trash bags and the 3 old run-down dumpsters. It took me a few seconds before I noticed Earl standing in the corner with his head up against the wood fence. "Hey, Earl," I yelled. "Martin is running late, so I'll need you to join me inside because of you-know-who." "Yeah, sure. Just give me a second," he yelled back to me without so much as a look. It looked like he was watching something through the fence. I didn't want to go inside without Earl because of the cameraman, so I walked over to him instead. "What are you doing?" I asked him. "Watching," he replied. I sighed. "What are you watching then?" I asked him. "Look for yourself," he said simply. I bent down beside Earl and I leant my head up against the fence to see what he was looking at on the other side. On the other side of the fence, there was a creature. The creature was a humanoid with pale skin. If I should compare it to something, it would be a ghoul from Fallout or a golem from The Lord of the Rings. The creature crawled around on all 4, looking for something or perhaps someone. I made eye contact with the creature, and it froze, and so did I. After a few seconds, it started to crawl closer and closer, and I started to get worried. I smacked Earl on the shoulder before I knew it, and he pulled out his gun and shot it through the fence. The creature jumped back at inhuman speed and screamed at us. Earl had hit it in the shoulder, and it looked like it hurt. A lot. The creature started to lick its wound, and then let out another scream before running off. The scream sounded similar to the one that I used to hear at night. "Earl, what was that?" I asked Earl while he started to climb over the fence. "That's the thing that's been eating from the dumpsters," he explained. A few days before, Earl had mentioned that something had been eating from the dumpsters in the backyard, and that he was going to do something about it. Wait, I said. "Don't tell me you're going after it." "I am," Earl said. "Call Martin and ask when he'll be here." And then with that, he ran off in the same direction as the dumpster jumper had. After Earl left, I called Martin, and he didn't pick up, so I went back inside again. I walked through the storage room and into the kiosk, where I was surprised to see a customer, just standing in the middle of the room staring at me. "Hello, my child," he said. This caught me off guard because he was, in fact, not my dad. Hello, Dad," I replied, and I walked behind the counter. What can I help you with?" I asked him. "What can you help me with?" the man said. "Well, I've come here to see if humanity is ready for the new divine. What do you think, Jonas? Is humanity ready?" That wasn't what I had been expecting him to say. And before I could answer, Earl came back into the kiosk. I guess he couldn't find the creature. "Who in God's name are you?" Earl yelled as he pulled his revolver out. The man turned to him and said, I may be the god you speak of, Earl. How do you know my name? Earl yelled as a reply. I know of everything that has happened and is happening, the man said. I know that young Jonas here was a witness to a horrible incident. I know what lives under the town. And of course, I know all about your family. I don't think Earl liked that he mentioned his family, because the next thing he did was pull his gun out again, aiming it at the god, and then he pulled the trigger. The air exploded with the sound, and my ears started to ring. I looked over and expected to see the man dead on the ground, but to my surprise, he was still standing in the middle of the room. I noticed a bullet hanging in the middle of the air with a smoke trail leading back to the gun in Earl's hand. Earl was standing completely still, almost as if he was frozen in time. Then the man, God, said, "Perhaps humanity isn't ready." Then he lifted his hand and swiped in the direction of Earl. A wall of light shot out from his hand and went through Earl. As it exited Earl's back, it ripped small chunks of flesh with it, and I mean really small chunks, almost too small to see. I heard a gasp coming out of Earl. Then another pulse of light came through Earl, and his gasp turned into a scream. Pulse after pulse, Earl slowly got pulled apart, until he was no more than an afterimage of the man he used to be. The man turned to me and flicked his fingers, but instead of a wall of light, there was suddenly filled with fire. But the flames weren't burning, or at least not yet. They were, like Earl, frozen in time, waiting for the man to release them. "I shall let you live for now," the man said. "An even darker future awaits you." And then with a flash, the man disappeared. Earl exploded in a cloud of blood, and the flames started to burn. I ran for the door, but the roof started to fall apart and blocked the way. I then ran straight at the window and kicked it as hard as I could, and when it was finally broken enough, I jumped outside. I tumbled for a second before I got up onto my feet. The entire building was burning, and it looked like I had just barely escaped. A car parked beside it, and in it was Martin. He opened the car door, with its radio still blasting, "We didn't start the fire," which was ironic, I know. He walked up to me. I looked at him and simply said, "It looks like we've got to find a new job." Like I said, it's about a day since the kiosk got burned down, and I have finally gotten myself to write this final part. Now, this isn't the end of my tales from Fright Town. I have some more stories to tell, and when I finally find a new job, I will probably get a lot more. But at least for now, stay safe and stay away.